Welcome to UC Today. My name's David Dungay. I am here reporting live from InfoComm. I'm with Craig Durr. Welcome to the show. How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you doing?
I'm doing fantastic. It's at the end of day one. What a fabulous day we've had. Craig, first of all, tell me what have been the standout sort of moments that you've grabbed from today.
Right. You know what I really like about this show this year is it is a really good, what I call petting zoo. There's a lot of new products for people to actually sit and visit. But actually, let me tell you what's even more interesting about that. So not only do you see new products from people like Logi, QSys, Neat, and some other ones, there's a new strategy I'm noticing that these vendors are doing at the show where they've actually pre-announced these. And so instead of having it all stack up to be a press release of the day of the show, you see people like Crestron doing a live event, Logitech doing a virtual event, Neat and QSys had press releases that came out a week or so before about what they're doing new product-wise. And I think it's a great story, actually, because what I think it's doing, it's allowing these end customers to set up time and have their pre-agenda and to visit, set up meeting, understand what they want to do and get into it. And by the way, I'm loving this show because I'm seeing a lot of end customers. This is a really good opportunity for some feedback for you and I as journalists and researchers. It's a really good show.
Yeah, absolutely. And one of the I've seen everywhere in this show is the video bar, right?
I know.
You can't walk around the show without bumping into a video bar at some point. What are your thoughts around the video bars and how those companies are really differentiating those products now? What are you seeing?
Right. So video bars, you're right. There's a lot of them that came out. And there's a lot of companies that are using that as a tip of a spear to get into video. So you've got some companies like Wolf had a USB video bar. Like I said, I mentioned QSys before, had some products in place. Biamp actually, I think, had some as well too. But here's the interesting challenge I'm finding about that. The technology is pretty much on par with each other. I don't think anyone's super standing out on what they're doing within the audio and video speeds and feeds. Yeah, their AI is unique, and that's an important element because it creates immersive experience. But you know where the opportunities that's changing on is this, is there's actually, I think, going to be a bottleneck of what we see certified from people like Microsoft and Zoom. I mean, that's a huge engineering expense for them to do this. And with companies that only have a small amount of video sales, it's a big investment for someone like Microsoft to certify. So I think what you're going to see is these bars are out, but it's going to be a long tail before you might see them certified on these key platforms. And then there's a second challenge that ties into this also. I think some of these vendors that are making their first entry are actually finding a bottleneck in channel. Now what I mean is this, is these channel providers also have to think about their inventory, their training, what they do around these certain ecosystems, right? So it helps if you have a full-fledged portfolio. It creates more of a one-stop shop. So when a channel, a distributor, even an AV partner starts looking at people like Poly or Jabra or Logitech that have a little bit more holistic portfolio, or Crestron, let's not forget these guys, they have a huge portfolio. It's actually a great advantage. And I think it's not the technology of these video bars that might be an inhibitor, because I think they're par. I think it's going to be who's going to be certified and what's the channel strategy going to be, who's going to adopt them. It's a key thing to watch out for.
So let's talk about certification for a moment. You say there could be quite a long tail there, but how important is that to those customers, those end user customers? I mean, is that a requirement? Are they pushing for this?
Yeah, actually for me, it's table stakes. So I'm fortunate that I'm talking to both vendors and to end customers. Think about how the decision process takes. It's almost like a waterfall. You've got people making platform decisions first, probably at that C-level meeting, and then it waterfalls. I'm going to be a Microsoft shop, I'm going to be a WebEx shop, I'm going to be a Zoom shop. That next thing goes to part of the decision is, let's look at the stable of products I can look, and they hone in on that certified product, right? So that certified product list gives them that list of 5, 10, 12 vendors they can use. To be outside of the scope of that, you've got to have a champion within that company early on in the process. Otherwise, it then goes down to people that are more doing the point of proof of concepts and taking place there. Now, it doesn't mean that there's not opportunities for non-certified products to work into it, but with so many decisions being made beforehand about this is our platform, this is our certification, we're going to roll out a standardized kit and this is what it's based upon, you would have to have a champion high up in that company saying, I like this product so much even though they're not certified, which, certified gives assurance. Gives assurance for support, gives assurance for the end user experience. So for better, for worse, it's a key table stake, and I think it's important for people to have.
I want to talk about meeting experiences as well. Mm-hmm. That's been a big thing for me today, I think, is not necessarily the camera technology, it's the management that goes around it. How are IT managers enabled to look after those devices and do firmware updates? and look at the environment of the meeting room itself. In some instances, air quality, for example, and how that impacts meetings. So what are you seeing there, and how important is that sort of management layer around these devices for customers?
Right. It's really interesting you talked about that. I had a panel yesterday, and we talked about the workplace experience platforms, those softwares that help create synchronicity outside of the conference room. And some of that entry-level stakes winds up being things like reservations. So we've done conference room reservations in the past. Now we're doing desk reservations. But these softwares are now doing things like helping notify, is David going to be in the office or not? And in a hybrid work environment, it helps me if you share that information with me so I know it's a good day for me to go in or not. So that is just an initial element of what these platforms provide. But I think you're talking about the management, what you talked about. There's huge insights. So not only can a management team start looking at things like utilization, but now think about forecasting. So the classic example I use is an office may have 50 people in on Monday, but 500 in on Tuesday. And you're like, well, what happened? Well, I can look back and I see it was a town hall meeting, so everybody was inviting in. But if they had that foresight to do that, not only are we talking about scheduling rooms and desks, but what about network access and make sure I have plenty of bandwidth? What about parking? What about cafe and make sure I have services available as well too? If it's going to be Taco Tuesday to drive everybody in, do I have enough tacos on hand to do that? So what I'm trying to say is the experience goes outside, and I agree with you about that. Giving that management team insights and data so that they can plan for it becomes a key differentiator. Our UC platforms have a great story. WebEx has a great story. You talk about room and air availability. I heard this great anecdotal story about the fires taking place in New York City right now. And they were being advised through their console that there was better air quality in the office than there was in their home, based upon fires and smoke that was taking place within Canada and bringing that down to the area. Zoom's got some great things with their Spaces extension. Microsoft, although I haven't seen much about it, has Places on the horizon. And I think in the next month or two, we're going to hear some more details about that as well.
Yeah, I mean, it's a really interesting concept, this, especially for those big businesses who might have hundreds of meeting rooms, right? There are real world cost efficiency savings to be had here, right? And for a big business with lots of meeting rooms, and it's going to run into the hundreds of thousands or millions of savings, for that business, right?
There is. And, actually, one of the companies that came out with a product here is Neat. They have their Pulse platform, and they added a new feature called App Hub. I share that because it's a great platform that they're doing. It's going to be a subscription-based cloud service coming up soon. But their tagline actually really describes well what they're trying to do. They talk about, in that environment, giving choice, giving control, and providing good care for those devices. All those are very important to management in that context. And if you can establish something that works as like that heartbeat, that insight, so I can see what's going on, it's becoming more and more important.
We can't have a conversation about conferencing technology without talking about AI. What have you seen on the AI sort of innovation front here at the show? Are you seeing much, new things coming along today?
Right. You and I were joking, or actually I was joking with Rob about this, that the two buzzwords was A and I at Enterprise Connect was previous. And there was a lot of big platform announcements. So I haven't heard many announcements, but what I'm seeing is implementation of this come to bear right now. So we've started getting a preview of what Microsoft is doing with their intelligent framing, their intelligent camera technology, which is their multi-stream technology coming out. Under the covers, that's an AI technology working there as well too. We're continuing to see innovations from people like Shure around their audio AI, how they're actually using that to feed into camera systems to help cameras become more attuned about who they're picking up in these multi-camera settings. So that AI is becoming important. Now, this is more of a device-oriented show, so that's why I think we're seeing it. You and I know that the platforms are talking about some of the productivity things like the chat GPT integrations or about the Copilot AI. That's there, but it's not so much a focus it's more about how those devices are contributing to that data lake that's taking place there. I think it's seeing it.
Fantastic. Well, Craig, thank you so much for joining me and sharing some of your insights, and good luck at the rest of the show.
This is great. I've got good shoes, I've got stamina, and I'm going to have a cup of coffee about every hour to do this here. Okay?
Me too. And thanks for watching. You've been watching me, David Dungay, on UC Today.